All right, everybody, let me tell you about what just went down on SportsCenter today. And I'm talking about the kind of news that makes you literally stop mid-bite of your sandwich and just stare at the screen going, "Wait, what?" This is the type of insider information that changes the entire trajectory of a franchise. The kind of breaking news that has NFL fans across the country immediately jumping into group chats and Twitter threads to process what they just heard. So, buckle up, because what I'm about to share with you from today's ESPN broadcast is going to blow your mind and completely reshape how you think about the New York Giants' future. So here's what happened on SportsCenter this morning that had the entire panel absolutely buzzing with energy. Jordan Raanan, who's been covering the Giants for ESPN and knows this organization inside and out, dropped this massive article that basically pulled back the curtain on everything that's happening with the Giants' coaching search and front office situation. And let me tell you, the main story that emerged from all of this reporting is something that I personally did not see coming, but makes absolute sense when you really break down all the pieces. We're talking about Mike McCarthy potentially becoming the next head coach of the New York Giants. And this isn't just some wild speculation or hot take for clicks. This is based on real conversations happening at the highest levels of the organization. Hey, what's up, everyone? Before we jump into this massive Giants news, I just want to ask you for a quick favor that would mean the world to me. If you could just take 1 second right now and hit that like button, it would be incredibly important to me and helps this channel grow so much. I know it seems like a small thing, but those likes genuinely make a huge difference in getting this content out to more Giants fans who need to stay updated on everything happening with this team. So seriously, just tap that like button real quick. It literally takes 1 second, and it helps me out more than you know. Now, before I dive into the McCarthy situation specifically, let me give you the context that SportsCenter was laying out today, because this is crucial to understanding why this move would be so significant. The Giants are in this really interesting position where they've fired their head coach, but they're keeping Joe Schoen as the general manager, at least for now. Jordan's reporting revealed that Schoen's contract runs through 2026, and according to multiple league sources who've been talking to the Giants, he's likely to remain in his position unless there's a strong head coaching candidate who specifically wants to bring in their own GM. And this is where things get really interesting, because we've seen this movie before, haven't we? The SportsCenter crew today was drawing comparisons to what happened with the Jacksonville Jaguars last year. And this parallel is absolutely perfect for understanding the dynamics at play here. Remember when the Jaguars interviewed Liam Cohen, and he essentially told them, "Thanks, but no thanks. I'm not interested if you're keeping Trent Baalke as the GM." And then Jacksonville had to pivot and actually fire Baalke so they could get their guy? The Giants could find themselves in that exact same situation. And here's why that matters for the Mike McCarthy conversation specifically. What the ESPN analysts were really hammering home today is that Joe Schoen is leading the head coach search and compiling the list of candidates. Now, obviously, you'd think Schoen isn't going to put together a list of guys who he thinks wouldn't want to work with him, right? But here's the thing, and this is what makes the McCarthy angle so fascinating. McCarthy is a proven head coach, a Super Bowl winner, a guy with nearly 2 decades of head coaching experience in the NFL. He's not some coordinator looking for his first shot who's going to be grateful just to get an interview. McCarthy has leverage, McCarthy has options, and McCarthy has a very specific idea of how he wants to run a football operation. The panel on SportsCenter was breaking down McCarthy's entire resume, and let me walk you through why this makes so much sense for the Giants. We're talking about a guy who spent 13 seasons as the head coach of the Green Bay Packers. 13 seasons with one of the most iconic franchises in NFL history. During that time, he took the Packers to the playoffs 9 times, including 8 consecutive playoff appearances. That's not luck, that's not catching breaks, that's sustained excellence and organizational stability. The Packers won 6 NFC North Division titles under McCarthy, and oh yeah, he also won a Super Bowl in 2011 when the Packers beat the Steelers in Super Bowl XLV. But here's what really stood out to me during today's SportsCenter discussion, And this is the part that I think Giants fans need to understand, because it's absolutely crucial. McCarthy isn't just a guy who's won games. He's a quarterback developer, a quarterback whisperer, if you will. This is the coach who managed the transition from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers, which, if you remember at the time, was one of the most difficult and delicate situations in NFL history. Favre was a legend, a franchise icon, and McCarthy had to navigate moving on from him to this young kid from Cal. And what happened? Rodgers became one of the greatest quarterbacks in NFL history, a multiple-time MVP, a first-ballot Hall of Famer. Now, let's connect this to the Giants' current situation, because this is where everything clicks into place. The Giants have a young core that's actually pretty talented when you step back and look at it objectively. They've got Malik Nabers, who looks like a legitimate star wide receiver. They've got Cam Skattebo, who's showing real promise. They've got a franchise left tackle. They've got a pass rush that's underperforming, but has talent. And most importantly, they're likely going to have another top 5 pick in the upcoming NFL draft, where they could potentially select a quarterback like Jackson Dart, or whoever they fall in love with. McCarthy's track record of developing quarterbacks makes him the perfect coach to bring in when you're about to draft or develop a young signal caller. The SportsCenter analysts today were really diving into what the Giants are looking for in their next head coach based on Jordan's reporting. And this is where things get even more interesting. According to multiple league sources who've spoken with the Giants, they're looking for a head coach who can command the room, someone who can oversee the entire operation and develop a sustainable culture. And here's the kicker. Previous head coaching experience, whether at the collegiate or professional level, is preferred. They specifically mentioned that this might be necessary in part because of the difficulty of the New York market and the setup of the organization. Let me tell you why that description fits Mike McCarthy like a glove. This isn't some young coordinator who's going to come in and be overwhelmed by the bright lights of New York City. McCarthy spent 5 years coaching the Dallas Cowboys. And if you don't think that prepares you for media scrutiny and pressure, I don't know what does. Dallas is one of the most high-profile jobs in all of sports, and McCarthy navigated that pressure cooker for 5 seasons. He went 12-5 in his first 2 full seasons with the Cowboys. And while things didn't end the way anyone wanted in Dallas, he showed he could handle big market expectations and intense media environment. What really got the SportsCenter panel excited today was talking about McCarthy's coaching philosophy and how it would fit with the Giants' current roster and organizational structure. McCarthy is a CEO-style head coach. He's not calling plays on offense anymore like he did early in his career. He's managing the entire operation, handling the big picture stuff, putting assistant coaches in position to succeed. The Giants specifically mentioned they want someone who can oversee the operation, and that's exactly what McCarthy does best at this stage of his career. Here's something else that came up during the ESPN discussion that I found absolutely fascinating. The Giants have this pattern of making the same mistakes over and over again. This is now the 3rd consecutive time they're firing a head coach while keeping the general manager. They did it with Ben McAdoo. They did it with Pat Shurmur. They did it with Joe Judge. They did it with Brian Daboll. The organization keeps walking the same path that has led them to disaster. But bringing in someone like Mike McCarthy could actually break that cycle, and here's why. McCarthy has so much experience, so much credibility, so much organizational clout that he's not going to be a puppet for the front office. He's going to have real power, real influence over personnel decisions, real input on how the roster is constructed. He's coached long enough and won enough that he can walk into John Mara's office and speak his mind about what needs to happen. That's not something every coaching candidate can do, especially younger coordinators who are just grateful to get their first head coaching opportunity. McCarthy can negotiate from a position of strength. The show today also spent significant time discussing what McCarthy did in Dallas and why, despite the playoff disappointment, his tenure there shouldn't be viewed as a complete failure. He consistently won during the regular season. He consistently had the Cowboys competitive. He consistently put them in position to make playoff runs. The issue in Dallas was never that McCarthy couldn't coach, or couldn't manage a locker room, or couldn't handle the pressure. The issues were more about roster construction, about having a quarterback in Dak Prescott who struggled in big moments, about not having enough defensive talent to compete with the elite teams in the NFC. The Giants' situation is different in a lot of ways. First of all, they're not dealing with the same kind of cap constraints that Dallas had. The Cowboys kept pushing money into future years to keep their core together, which limited their flexibility. The Giants are going to have cap space to work with. Second, the Giants are going to have high draft picks, including potentially a top 5 pick this year. That gives them the opportunity to add elite young talent on rookie contracts. Third, and this is huge, the Giants are in a division that's completely wide open. The Cowboys were in a division with other competitive teams. The NFC East right now is up for grabs, and with the right coach and the right quarterback, the Giants could be competing for division titles quickly. What really struck me during the SportsCenter discussion was when they started talking about the attractiveness of the Giants' job to potential coaching candidates. Adam Schefter said on air that he expects this to be a very attractive head coaching position. Multiple agents with candidates interested in the position have described the Giants' job as highly coveted due to the young core and the fact that they're still the New York Giants. Still a marquee franchise with incredible history and tradition. One source with intimate knowledge of the opening specifically used those words, according to Jordan's reporting. Now here's where I want to get into something that the ESPN panel was really emphasizing, and I think this is so important for Giants fans to understand. The Giants have had the 5th pick, 7th pick, 3rd pick, and 6th pick in recent drafts. When you're picking that high, that consistently, you should be able to build a young core. That's not some incredible accomplishment by the front office. That's just the natural result of being bad for multiple years. But the pieces are there now. The foundation is starting to take shape, and bringing in the right head coach to maximize that talent is absolutely critical. McCarthy's experience developing young talent, especially at the quarterback position, cannot be overstated. The SportsCenter guys today were going through his track record with Rodgers specifically, and the transformation of Aaron Rodgers from a raw prospect with a weird throwing motion to a refined elite quarterback who could make every throw on the field. McCarthy was instrumental in that development. He built an offensive system that maximized Rodgers' strengths, protected him early in his career, gave him the tools and concepts to succeed. That's exactly what the Giants are going to need with whoever becomes their next franchise quarterback. The show also touched on something that I think is being underestimated in a lot of the coaching search conversations, and that's the importance of organizational stability. McCarthy provided that in Green Bay for over a decade. He was there through different coordinators, different roster constructions, different challenges and obstacles. He created a culture of professionalism and winning that sustained itself year after year. The Giants desperately need that kind of stability after cycling through coaches every 2 or 3 years. They need someone who can come in and build something that lasts, not just chase short-term wins. One thing that came up repeatedly in the ESPN discussion was the comparison to other experienced coaches who've taken over struggling franchises and turned them around. Andy Reid going to Kansas City, Bruce Arians going to Tampa Bay, even Sean Payton going to Denver this past year. These veteran coaches with proven track records bring instant credibility, instant organizational structure, instant respect from players. McCarthy would bring all of that to the Giants. And in a market like New York, where the media scrutiny is relentless and the pressure is constant, having that kind of steady, experienced hand at the helm is invaluable. The panel also broke down McCarthy's coaching tree and the kind of assistants he's likely to bring with him. And this is where things get really exciting if you're a Giants fan. McCarthy has connections throughout the NFL. He's worked with some of the best coordinators and position coaches in the game. He knows how to build a quality staff. If the Giants hire McCarthy, they're not just getting him, they're getting access to his entire network of coaching talent. That's how you build a complete organization, not just filling one position, but upgrading multiple positions simultaneously. What I found particularly interesting in today's broadcast was when they discussed the potential challenges and concerns with McCarthy. Nobody's pretending this would be a slam dunk hire with zero question. The playoff record in Dallas wasn't great. The Cowboys consistently underperformed in January. There were legitimate criticisms of game management at times. But here's the counter-argument that the SportsCenter analysts made, and I think it's compelling. Those Dallas teams might have been maxed out. They might have reached their ceiling based on the talent they had. Sometimes, as a coach, you can only get so much out of what you're given, and if the core pieces aren't quite good enough, no amount of coaching is going to overcome that. The Giants would be giving McCarthy something different, something fresh, a chance to build from the ground up with young talent and high draft picks. That's a different opportunity than trying to squeeze the last drops of contention out of an aging Cowboys roster that had been picked clean by years of cap manipulation. McCarthy could come to New York and have the chance to do something he hasn't done since Green Bay. Build a champion from scratch, develop a young quarterback into a star, create a culture and identity that defines a franchise for a decade. Listen, after watching all of today's SportsCenter coverage and hearing Jordan Raynan's reporting and listening to the panel break down every angle of this situation, I'm completely convinced that Mike McCarthy to the Giants makes perfect sense. This isn't about making a splash hire or grabbing headlines with some hot young coordinator. This is about bringing in a proven winner who knows how to build and sustain success, who knows how to develop quarterback, who knows how to handle the pressure of a major market, who knows how to command a locker room and create organizational culture. The Giants need stability, they need experience, they need credibility, and McCarthy checks every single one of those boxes. If this happens, if they actually pull the trigger on bringing McCarthy to New York, I genuinely believe it could be the move that finally breaks this franchise's cycle of mediocrity and starts them on the path back to relevance. This is the kind of hire that 5 years from now, people could look back on and say, that was the moment everything changed for the Giants. Stay tuned because something major is brewing here.